So in today's video, I want to talk to you about grey zones and junk miles. And I think the reason why it's an important video for older endurance runners is if you're finding that your results are plateauing, you're getting more injuries, you've probably been victim to this, but not in a way that you probably think. So there's a lot of confusion around this. And I have to be honest, that in some ways, inadvertently, I may have added to it, because I'm often telling runners to stay out of these grey zones. But I think the devil's in the detail. I'm going to attempt to clarify so that you can make adjustments in your running in a way that you get better results, maximize your upside and minimize your downside, which is obviously injuries and plateau. So the two myths really with this is grey zones are a waste of time. So working in those grey zones is not a good idea, and junk miles, as they're called, do nothing. And there's that kind of crossover between the two. Why this is important, and I think is worth discussing as an older endurance runner, is if you get this wrong, then after 50 you'll be finding, like I said earlier, your recoveries are taking longer and your injury risk is increasing, and the adaptations to training change. So what that looks like is you're recovering slower, which you'll tend to understandably blame age on. Age is a factor. It's not always all the story. Injury risk, you get more injuries. Yet again, it's because I'm getting older. It's true, but not completely true. And I'm working really hard and I don't seem to be making any progress. This is why this video is important. If that's what's happening, why is that happening? And it can be down to these junk miles or grey zone, and they're demonized. But as I'm going to share, the devil's in the detail. What is the grey zone? Let's get that out there first and foremost. Typically refers to a zone. If you're using a 5-zone system, 1 being the easiest you could run, 5 being the hardest you could run. Zone 3 sits somewhere in the middle. Now there are other zonal systems, and the Norwegian method uses 3 zones. I think the 5-zone model makes it more clear why potentially zone 3 can be problematic, because it's right in the middle. So it's that Goldilocks thing. It's not too hard, but it feels hard enough. So it doesn't feel too easy. So it's tempting to train at that moderately to hard pace. You can see why a lot of runners, particularly older runners, gravitate towards it. A reality check here. The grey zone equals valuable stress in lots of ways if you get it right. And this is why you're hearing of things like Norwegian methods and where they're utilizing tempo runs. It's transmixed fiber types, transmixed fiber types, improves fatigue resistance at race pace, and helps develop marathon specific endurance. They're all really good things. So you might naturally be gravitating to zone 3, like I mentioned, for the reasons it's enjoyable. You feel like you're doing something. It's not too easy. And for older runners, it often feels like a tangible zone 2, because they sometimes feel that their zone 2 is too slow. All I would add to that is compared to what? And it's normally compared to what they've done in the past when they were younger, compared to race pace, or compared to somebody else on Strava. But this is why it often creeps up more into this grey zone, into this zone 3, rather than fearing it or demonizing it. And as I've said, I've been as guilty of this indirectly as anyone else. But my argument has been, it's a bit like red wine. If I don't drink at all now, but when I drank, if I'd have had 1 glass of wine a night, nothing wrong with that. Maybe even 2 glasses of wine a night, nothing wrong with that. Even the odd bottle now and again. But when I started drinking a bottle every night, there's a problem there. And that's the same with zone 3. The odd bit of zone 3, the odd glass, fine. Even 2. But if you're drinking a bottle a night of zone 3, you've got a problem. It's all in the dosage. And that's where the problem is. It's a bit like buying a shovel, and then you buy the shovel, instead of digging your garden with it, you hit somebody over the head with it. You can't go around blaming the shovel. The tool, there's nothing wrong with the tool. It's how you used it. And it's how zone 3 is used that can either create great results or it can become this grey zone. So the flip side of zone 3 is the junk miles. They're interconnected, but I like to separate them up because the zone 3 grey zone is often when runners are running certain paces. But the junk miles is like they're just going out and doing running without focus. It may be in zone 3, it may be a bit slower. And the claim is that miles don't contribute to adaptation. And by many runners, they're seen as too slow or unconstructive to matter. But the truth is, the mileage matters, especially easy volume. But it's all in the dosage and the detail. So why easy running still works, especially after 50. Now, every runner on the planet knows about easy running. Every age group advantage call I do for runners where we look at where they are as runners, where they want to go and what the bottlenecks are. It's completely free. There's a link below the video if you're interested. But when I do these, easy runs come up again and again. Every runner knows what an easy run is. Every runner goes, oh yeah. And you know what to do. Oh yeah, do your easy runs conversationally. Yeah, I know what to do. But as you dig deeper, they get more uncomfortable because they're aware of it, but they're not really doing it. They're running their easy runs a lot harder than zone 1 and 2. You've guessed it. They're running it in that comfortably hard grey zone. That is when they do become junk miles. But if you keep the intensity down, it's going to build capillaries, mitochondria, running economy, strengthen tendons and ligaments, stimulates recovery hormones, and means that you recover more quickly and run more volume. These are all pluses. This isn't junk miles. This is quality running. But if you do it at a higher intensity and you're doing it in the grey zone, then you're increasing your injury risk. You're increasing the recovery time. So then it becomes junk miles. The real problem, dosage, not intensity. As I've mentioned, too much of the same pace, too little recovery equals injuries. When I start working with a lot of my runners, I'd say I'm a nudger. So really nudging them to run their easy runs, truly easy, nowhere near their race pace. A lot of runners, if you've got their race pace here, their easy runs are here. They're too close. This starts creating the fact that they're running in zone 3 a lot, comfortably hard, and then they are creating junk miles. Then they are creating more opportunity for injury. They are creating slower recoveries. But if you nudge them over and those easy runs are truthfully easy, they have the right level of recovery, then they're going to reduce their injury risk and get out of the plateau that they find themselves in, which is all too commonly blamed on age, which, as I mentioned, age is a factor, but it's not the only pony in town, as in respect of the problems that older runners often face. So how to think it instead? Stimulus plus recovery equals adaptation. Ask, what is the purpose of each run? So if you've got a zone 1 and 2 easy run, what's the purpose of this run? It's to build up your endurance. To do that, you've got to make sure that you nudge over to really easy conversational. Can you truthfully say that when you're out running, you could have a great conversation with me, tell me all about your family, all about your running? Could you do that? Could you, at various points in an easy run, check in with yourself and count out loud? Where am I in the training cycle? Do I know? Or am I just doing the same old runs? When I do my age group advantage calls, I have a questionnaire about what a typical week looks like. And when you talk to runners, these are the weeks they do for weeks, months and years. There is no periodization in their running. They're not really asking, where am I in this training cycle? What should I be changing? What should I be increasing? What should I be decreasing? Should I be having more recovery? And it brings me finally to my final point here. Am I respecting my recovery needs? Recovery is not a passive thing, it is an active thing. I finished London in the end of April. I've had an off season for nearly 2 months. Doesn't mean I've not been running, I've been running. But I've really given my body time to recover, and I am now just picking up my training. I've not got a race till the autumn, maybe a half marathon. So I am really now going to be in a training to train phase. And I know that I'm in that phase, and the stimuli that I'll be working with are in that phase. So it's really important to know the why, so that the stimulus is right, the recovery are right, and then the adaptations are right, and you embarrass your body into the correct changes that you want. So how I coach this in the Evergreen Endurance Runner model, it's called the perfect pacing method. And part of that is the sustainable speed framework. We are looking at the paces and intensities that you're doing in a way that is sustainable for older endurance runners. So we're not demonizing any zone. So I will have my runners do a lot of zone 3, but it will be wrapped up in zone 1 and 2, either in the runs they do prior to those particular workouts. Their easy runs are really easy. And if they are doing zone 3, it is wrapped up with lots of recovery in zone 1 and 2, warm up and warm down. Now, when I say that sounds, what's new about that? Nothing new about it, because it's all about how it's implemented. But what I see with most runners is if you've got a speed workout, they don't really recognize the warm up. They do the speed segment, maybe right. They don't really lean into the recovery segment of the speed workout, and they don't really lean into the warm down at the end. So every run they do becomes a tempo run. Guessed it, you've guessed it. So most of their running is jump miles because they're constantly in zone 3. Remember my wine analogy? They're constantly having a bottle a night. It's like salt in food. You put salt in food, put a bit in. If you didn't put any salt in food, it would be bland. Your running would be bland. If it was all one pace, as I've mentioned in this video, you wouldn't get the adaptations. Put a bit of salt in food, just right. Get the adaptation right. You might only have, in a speed workout, a 5-minute period where there's high intensity. Just 5 minutes, wrapped up, surrounded by zone 1 and 2 throughout. The minimal dosage that you can get away with that gives you the adaptation but maximizes your recovery is what I'm aiming for with the sustainable speed framework for older runners. When I have runners come to me saying, I can't do speed workouts, what they're actually saying is their speed workouts aren't sustainable. This brings me to my last point. Many years ago, I went to a Bupa check. And at the time, I was drinking a lot of alcohol. I've since, for the last 12 years, I don't drink at all because I could never drink in moderation. And there's a theme running through this. Many runners can't run with control. They can't see their own shadow. I couldn't drink moderately. So anyway, this doctor said to me, how many units of alcohol a week do you drink? I forget what I said, But I was pretty honest. I think I might have said 60 or 70. It was a lot of units. And I saw that she wrote down more than I put. And I think the reason why she wrote down more is that she realised that most people that drink, particularly people who drink heavily, rationalise their behaviour. And the reason I share this story is most runners left to their own devices rationalise their behaviour. They will tell me, yeah, I'm doing easy runs easy. But are you really? No, you're probably nearer to zone 3. Are you really getting the dosage right on your high intensity work? No, it's probably not. So it's probably dropping down into zone 3. If you don't get the wrapping right on your speed workout, yeah, it's probably dropping down into zone 3. That's where it becomes junk miles. That's where the grey zone's a problem. But if you get it right, you get the dosage right, as I've mentioned earlier, zone 3 can become your friend. It can really accelerate your growth. But you need a sustainable framework to do that. You need a blend of zone 1 and 2 easy, zone 3 steady, zone 4 and 5 controlled speed. But you don't want to be going into those zone 4 and 5s for long periods of time, and you don't want to be going there every week. So the emphasis on perceived effort, not just heart rate or pace. The final takeaway, grey zones aren't bad. Easy runs are obviously not worthless. The key is use them intentionally to support your goals. Easy runs that aren't easy are worthless. They are junk miles. Grey zones aren't bad, but if you do all your running in grey zones, then they are bad. So hopefully you can see it's about the dosage, about how you use that, how you look at your training plan and go, I've got to do a tempo today, but am I going to look at the other aspects in that workout, the zone 1 and 2, and am I going to respect them, or is it just going to become a mishmash of greyness? And then that's when it becomes a problem. I hope this video's helped. If it has and you want to go deeper on this, then jump on one of my age group advantage calls. We will look at exactly where you are now, where you want to go, and quite often what we've covered in this video. And we can go a bit deeper, and at the end of the call, I've got enough information to be able to send you an audit a day or two later that will cover what you need to do differently over the next 90 days in your training. Hopefully this video has been really useful.